Right, so when you log into the application, you'll be greeted by the Trade Palette Canada screen. So this is our suite of Canada Customs connectivity programs. When you log in, you'll find a launch arrow selector at the top of the screen, and you will just scroll down to Web Customs. So as I mentioned, Web Customs is our connectivity suite. You will be greeted by a menu on the top left with the following options. You have user profile, arrival certification message, status query, and responses. TechAdmin will not be used for this purpose. User profile is a good place to get started. You can log your company information and, most importantly, put an email address to have automated notifications. So any responses that come through the portal, to have those come through the system. So we typically recommend putting a group email, and the group email is visible to everyone in the system. This way, if you're not personally looking at it, someone in your team can look at it and can see it. And once you're done, you can just hit save. So I recommend going in there. I mean, obviously, address is not necessary, but you only have to do it once, and you can always come back here and update it later. The next item we have on the menu is the arrival certification message. And just to take an aside, you can see that every menu, when I hover my mouse over the item, we have a sub-menu that pops out. And that tells you what functions you can take with this specific aspect. So for arrival certification messages, we have create for creating a new one. We have amend for making any changes. If you have a rejection or if you have any sort of reason to go back and make a correction, you can click on amend. Delete to outright remove a record. Submit to, obviously, to submit to customs and get a response back. And view to look at all the transactions that you have created, whether they're submitted, whether they're pending, or whether they're still in draft. You can look at all of them there. These function sets are the same across all the menu items, so you can create, amend, delete, submit, and view, regardless where you go. So let's go to arrival certification message, create. Of course, arrival certification messages for warehouses are designed for when bonded shipments need to be arrived at the warehouse. This informs CBSA that the goods are ready for release. For instance, if they need to do an inspection, they know that they can maybe send an officer to their location and physically inspect it, should that be needed. The data requirement is very minimal. You need a cargo control number, which is typically provided by the carrier. It will usually be preceded by the carrier code, and then whatever weight bill information that the driver provides you or that the carrier provides you. Today I'll do a nice generic date-based item. Arrival date, so we're assuming that the goods have just arrived. So we can do today. I'll click on the calendar box, select today's date, and it will be presented in the correct format. For arrival time, we want to do 24-hour clock, so you can see hour, minute. The minute, I can do the time for the current time, which is 3:08 p.m., my local time. Port of clearance is basically something static. Your warehouse location is usually registered to a specific port. My local closest port is 0495, and that is not likely to change. If you're not sure what the port code is, you can always click on the lookup and find out what that code is. Okay. After I've entered all the information, I click on Save. I have a review of my transaction here, just to make sure I didn't make any typos. I want to double check my cargo control number, and then I can hit Submit. Hitting Submit will send that off to customs and provide me with a message not long from now. I can go and review the transaction that I've submitted by clicking on Arrival Certification, View, and you can see a readout of all the transactions I've submitted. I have my creation time, my submission date, which I could always use for support purposes, or if I'm even communicating with customs. As you can see, it's date stamped down to the second, so you can always make sure which transaction you're talking about. And then all the way on the right, I have the status column, which lets me know that this submission has been received by customs and is being processed. Once you have a response, the status will change to CBSA response received. And you can always go to your responses section to view what the actual response readout is. You can always double check that it's not being rejected. If it's being rejected, you can always go to amend, make the prescribed changes, and then submit it again. In some cases, you can create a shipment, an arrival rather, and you can just save it for later. So I did today's date. Let's say I have one for the weekend, and another staff member is going to submit that. So I can say select Saturday, submit arrives at noon. And again, my personal port code won't change because I'm in the same warehouse. I can save it, and then I don't have to submit it. I can leave that blank. Later on, another user, or me personally, when the goods arrive, I can go to submit, and I can see only the draft transactions that I've created. Meaning, I can create them in advance if I can anticipate them and I know the cargo control numbers in advance. So I can always click on a transaction and then click submit. So if this has finally arrived, I could just come here and submit it. That's basically the essence of the warehouse arrival certification message program. Being that this is bundled into or being used via the release notification system, you do have some other features that you're able to utilize. Chief among them is the status query, where you can send a query to Canada Customs, be it a transaction number or a cargo control number, and then you're able to basically retrieve a message from Canada Customs to see what the status of that message is. For instance, if a carrier arrives at the warehouse and they're not sure the status of their cargo control number, you can put that cargo control number in the system. Don't really need to fill out anything else. If you're querying the cargo control number, the port code clearance is optional, and you can do either the transaction number or the cargo control number. So I can save the submission, and I can send it off to customs. If it's been released, I'll get it back with the transaction number associated with it. And of course, I can go to view to see all my transactions, and I can see what the status is, as well as retrieve a submission timestamp in case I need to follow up with support or with CBSA. We also have our responses tab, which is largely built for PARS responses and general release notices. This is really the heart of the release notification system, but it's not always relevant to warehouse operators. What you can always do with the responses section is just go to view, which will show you all the responses in the system, whether they be arrival certification messages, whether they be status queries, or any release notification systems that you have queried and gotten back. You can see you have some advanced filtering that you can do here. If you operate multiple warehouse location codes, you can filter by warehouse location code, and then you can search and find it. Of course, I have no records on the system because this is a test account, and we haven't registered a carrier code or a sublocation code or account security number. So there's nothing that I can send to customs and actually retrieve a response, but that will of course be different for you. Other than that, you can just be able to see a raw unfiltered list. Usually we put a date, just you can see here it's a week back, just to make sure that you're not overwhelmed with responses. You can just see the recent one, but you can always delete this and come up with a complete list. So we really exhausted the menu items in the system, and this really concludes the part of the presentation that I had prepared for you.